Have you ever thought about why CEOs get divorced? I have. I think about this stuff. Every semester I have several CEOs come and speak to my MBA students at CU Boulder and at Colorado State University. The CEOs typically focus on their commitment to work, and the students ask questions about how the CEOs achieved financial success. Last semester, the questions took a different turn. At the end of each presentation, the students asked a personal question. They asked, "Are you still married?" Unfortunately, every CEO responded by saying they've had at least one divorce, and they attributed their divorce to their work or their company impacting their relationship with their spouse and their children. I wondered, given that, why don't CEOs spend more time creating an environment at work that positively impacts employees' personal lives so that they can engage at work, at home, and in their communities? Since my CEOs were baby boomers and the students were millennials, it made me realize the different generational impacts and generational conflicts that exist at work and play out in every aspect of our lives. And then it hit home. Literally, I recently had to renew my passport, and my wife, she was answering the passport renewal questions. She was grinning as she asked, "What color is your hair?" Well, I confidently responded that it's brown, like it's always been. She then grabbed her cell phone and began texting my daughter, and she asked her, she said, "What color is Dad's hair?" As if to build some unified support in the family for some other color than brown, right? You know, I was completely surprised when they collectively responded that my hair was gray. Well, you look as surprised as I was to hear their response. Up to this point, I bet you were thinking I was a millennial speaker, right? It may surprise you. I'm a Gen Xer. You know, the forgotten generation? The generation that brought you Nirvana, Slackers, We're Not Worthy from Wayne's World, right? We're the generation that suffers from the middle child syndrome, a feeling of exclusion. Actually, we're the bridge generation. We're the generation responsible for blending together the baby boomers, those that are in their 50s and 60s, and the millennials, those that are in their 20s and early 30s. Think about it. Gen X is the solution to the baby boomers and the millennials' conflicts, and it's all happening at work. And it all started with this thing called work-life balance. You remember that, work-life balance? However, it's no longer about balance. It's about blending together work and home life. Technological, economic, and social factors have substantially changed the way we live. With over 60 million multi-generational households in the U.S., that's 60 million homes with at least 3 generations living under one roof, just in the U.S. There's work-from-home days at virtually every company, and there's access to work 24/7. So what happens at work has a much more significant impact on our personal lives and how we show up in our communities than at any other point in history. We used to look at work and life like they were separate, kind of like a divided plate of food with different parts for each food group and serving. But technology's changed that. With technology, there's less separation between work, home life, and our community life. It's crazy that it's taken us this long to figure it out. We've known forever that we seek connection and inclusion. Rather than work and life being separate, like a divided plate of food, it's more like a veggie fruit smoothie, all blended together, making something healthy and sweet. But when we look at a typical day, you know we spend more than half of our waking time in work or work-related activities. Given that, how do you think work impacts our personal lives and how we show up in our communities? In today's modern, multi-generational family, work impacts all kinds of relationships. Relationships between spouses or significant others. Relationships between parents and children. And what about our friends outside of work? This blendification impacts virtually every relationship that we have. And at the core of this is work, because that's where we spend most of our time. So workplace environments are the platform to positively impact employees' personal lives so that they in turn positively impact their communities. This connection between work and life, it made me think about when I was growing up. Every night at dinner, my mom would talk about her workday, and it wasn't always nice. Even now, I remember her boss, Jean, and how Jean unknowingly played a role in raising me. If Jean was happy at work that day, my mom was happy at dinner. If, on the other hand, Jean was in a bad mood, guess what? Right, my mom was in a bad mood too. This impacted much more than a sporadic dinner conversation. It impacted my relationship with my mom and how I viewed this thing called work. And I had 3 other siblings that Jean unknowingly influenced. At a young age, my mom's work played a significant role in how I was raised. And today, it makes me think about the conversations I have at dinner with my family. You know, there's a lot of research out there supporting how moods impact relationships and interactions. There was a study by Roy Baumeister of Case Western Reserve. In the study, the researchers placed a plate of freshly baked, warm, steaming hot chocolate chip cookies next to a bowl of radishes. And they asked half of the subjects to eat the radishes and ignore the cookies, and the other half just to eat the cookies. At the end of that, they asked all of the subjects to solve an impossible puzzle. The researchers then stepped behind and watched through one of those looking glass mirrors, and they sat there and observed, and you know what they saw? They saw the cookie eaters. They looked relaxed. One of them tried a straightforward approach. She hit a roadblock and tried again and again and again. The cookie eaters, they just kept trying. The radish eaters, on the other hand, they looked completely different. They muttered as they worked. They barked at the researchers. Some of them got frustrated and just put their heads down on the table and simply gave up. On average, the radish eaters gave up 60% sooner than the cookie eaters. Essentially, what this means is that the radish eaters had some pent-up frustration from avoiding the cookies that impacted their ability to stay patient and positive in something completely unrelated, like solving a puzzle. Of course, the unofficial results of this are that we should all eat cookies all the time, right? That's my interpretation anyway. Seriously, when connected to the workplace and home life, this study indicates that a stressful, unfulfilling work environment affects our ability to remain patient and positive in other unrelated situations, like our home life. Remember what the CEO said to my students? You remember what they said? They said that their work life or their company negatively impacted their relationships with their spouse and their children. Of course, the opposite of this is true too. An engaging, fulfilling work environment has the power to impact much more than the company's bottom line. Since we spend most of our time at work, the workplace culture is the spark that kicks off a complementary cycle of positive community impacts. This takes me back to a conversation I had, a conversation with a CEO. He told me that he read a book about employee engagement. And he said that if he improved his company's employee engagement, he would improve his company's culture. And then he set out on a mission to improve his company's employee engagement. As I spoke with him, I realized that he was only focused on what happens at work. I recommended that he look at engagement as if it were a muscle that needs to be exercised constantly at work and at home. The blendification of these two areas would actually create more repetitions, turning a workplace skill into a 24/7 habit. I mentioned that there's this process, a process I call GREAT. It's a process where employees at every level of the organization can participate. They can take what they learn as far as engagement and actually use those skills to help build communities. I told him that if he started taking this on, he could watch his greatness spread throughout the company and into the community. But that was really just my way of catering to his ego. You have to do that sometimes, right? Actually, the word GREAT is an acronym. It's an acronym for the following 5 steps. First, greatness. We need to look at people differently. We need to view everyone as if they have a spark of greatness inside, something positive inside that's waiting for us to find. And then we need to take responsibility. It's my responsibility to not only find their spark of greatness, but to ignite it in virtually every communication that we have. And then we need to avoid extinguishing the spark. And we extinguish sparks through negative emotions and criticisms. That will surely put out someone's spark. Next, we need to apply fuel to the spark. And we do that by providing encouragement, empowerment, and direction. That will make sure that it takes off. And then finally, we need to teach ourselves. We need to teach ourselves, not others, how to sit back, watch, listen, and learn as their success spreads like a wildfire throughout the company, into their home life, and throughout the communities. As he personally adopted these steps, others followed. The company began to experience lower turnover, higher loyalty, and stronger financial success. But there was a greater impact. As others followed his lead, not only did they become more engaged employees, they became more engaged husbands and wives, moms and dads, and they became more active in their communities. The growth extended far beyond the walls of this company. In this case, the blendification of work and life was the path for one small company to make a significant impact on its community. So we need to embrace this blendification of work and life. Since we spend most of our time at work, workplace companies are the greatest platform for improving communication, enhancing relationships, and strengthening marriages, and also enriching childhood engagement. And workplace companies can accomplish the almost impossible task of blending together and uniting baby boomers and millennials. Now that would be worth it, wouldn't it? So in today's technology-driven, multi-generational world, the blendification of work and life is the spark that will build our community.